I think they'd be quite upset. I think they would be disappointed. Absolutely, and I think it's not just about what you're writing yourself.
Yep.
You know, it's I will go back and reread, books on my shelves.
Yep.
Because they mean different things to me at different stages of my training, and and as you say, different things pop out to you,
right?
Or you suddenly make a slightly different connection that adds on to something, and that's both true when you're writing as well as when you're reading. And it is worthwhile. Sometimes, you can read some of the older karate texts and they seem quite flat. And then something will happen, or you'll be doing something, and just a little sentence will pop out at you and refresh something in your brain that makes you go in a slightly different direction.
Right.
And I love that. The person who doesn't read, who doesn't talk and explore ideas of other people, that person only lives one life. The person who reads books, the person who talks to loads of other people, they experience more than one life.
Absolutely.
They take in all that information.
That's well said, man. And I I'm maybe this would be for another conversation, but I'm always interested in knowing, this growth mindset. To me, I look at what all you're saying is as having and adopting a growth mindset, right? So how does one achieve this growth mindset, right? Like, is it something that's like modeled from parenting, or is it some intrinsic switch that goes on, right? Because I can tell you from my experience, like I acted and behaved as a martial artist based on the schools that I trained in. And it was frowned upon to look at other people's perspectives. It was frowned upon to cross-train in different physical activity. Weight training was frowned, all that stuff, man. And we were just kind of put into this box. You got to do karate this way, and and so I'm just thinking, like, for me, what caused me to move on and receive from different perspectives is simply frustration. I just got frustrated. I got frustrated because when I did meet other martial artists, they were doing things differently, and it was wrecking what I was doing. It totally broke my concept. It messed up my drills. Like when I touched hands with these guys, it wouldn't work. A lot of the stuff just wouldn't work because they were doing something different. So I don't know. I just quickly, if you could tell us.
I got thrown by that quite early on in my training as well, and there are kind of different ways to respond to that, because sometimes you go, oh, my stuff's not working, therefore their stuff is superior.
Right. And
that can be disheartening.
True.
It can be, and that can make a lot of people quit. When what they're learning isn't working for what they're presented with, and that's a big danger actually with karate that isn't orientated towards habitual acts of violence. Is that dissonance? But the thing is, a lot of the time, what you're doing isn't working against what they're doing, is because you're being polite and you're letting that person do what they're doing.
I mean, compliant. Yeah.
Rather than just focusing on doing what you're doing. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Because actually, what you're trying to do is fit into their game rather than make them fit into your game.
Right.
But I think that there is a tendency for a lot of people to want to shut down their students' ability to explore, and sometimes it's because you want to keep the student safe, but sometimes I think it's just insecurity. It's because they themselves have stuck their head out briefly and got, oh, it's quite a frightening world out there. There's a lot of other stuff. Yeah, we're safer here in our own little bubble with what we're doing, and that's a shame.
It is. I wanted to share a little snippet of what Ian and I talked about recently, and I just wanted your take on it too, because I think it fits what we're talking about right now. It's this whole cross-training idea. Like, he's a martial artist first and a karate guy second, right? And so what that means for him and for me, and I'm assuming it means the same for you too. We're martial art guys. We love martial arts, so we love everything about it. But we chose to stick with our karate because it's a flavor of ice cream that we like, right? Like what you can't say that chocolate ice cream is the best ice cream in the world. It's just something that you like, right? So having said that, Ian was saying that karate is a holistic art in a sense that it's got striking, grappling, clinch work, all that stuff built into its kata and kihon wazas, but the training methods can be heightened and specialized when you go off and meet people who actually do that specific thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we got striking, and yeah, we got rotational punching, but so does boxing, and yeah, we got taisabaki, and we've got all these angular movements that are found clearly in all the kata. But you go to a boxer, and the boxer will be able to fine tune all of that stuff, fine tune your footwork.
I may be mixing this up with another interview you did, but am I right in saying that the metaphor that either you or Ian came up with was that of secondary school teachers?
Yeah, he was mentioning secondary school, but I think he mistook he because I mentioned elementary, but he talked about the school system.
Well, the thing is, in a secondary school, here's an example, because I used to be a history teacher. Yeah, as a history teacher, obviously, I would specialize in a particular curriculum area for my students.
Yep.
And to do that, I've also got to have some core skills in other basic areas. I used to be a university tutor in a history department, and then before and afterwards, I was a secondary school history teacher. And obviously, as a history teacher, I'm focusing on my specialism, but I'm also doing cross-curricular skills in English and so forth.
Yes.
But the students then go, and there'll be stuff that crosses over with my curriculum in geography. There'll be stuff that crosses over with my curriculum in maths and so forth. And obviously, to get to being a history teacher, I've got to have a bit of a base in some of those subjects as well, as I go through the academic curriculum as a child myself.
Yep.
But what you might think of is your average karate instructor or any martial arts instructor is like a secondary school teacher. They have an area of speciality which can be quite broad, and it will have overlaps with others, but that's what they're teaching. But the students then can go somewhere else. You wouldn't get your physics lessons from your history teacher, generally speaking.
Right.
And seminar instructors, they're more like university lecturers, university doctors, or university professors. They come in with perhaps a slightly more specialized, narrow focus than the secondary school teacher.
Yep.
And highlight a particular area in a seminar to boost the knowledge of both the secondary school teacher and their students. And then they go away again, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But when you're teaching your own club, you are very much like the secondary school teacher. You have your curriculum, you have your focus, and it will overlap a little bit with other subject areas. But there will come a time when your students will go off and perhaps train and flirt with a different subject matter teacher. Yeah. And then they may come back to you and bring that back to you. And that's very, very traditional. That's a bit like, Funakoshi's students going off and training in Aikido and Judo. It's like the judoka going into Funakoshi's dojo. It's like looking at how many different teachers Funakoshi himself trained with. It's like Funakoshi sending his son to go and cross-link with Kenwa Mabuni, and so forth. It's all about different teachers sending their pupils in different directions, bringing things back, cross-checking what they're doing. It's not about one teacher being better than the other. It's not about, the head of history being a better teacher than the head of biology.
Right.
Or that biology being a better subject than history, or history being a better subject than English.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very, very negative mindset to get drawn into. When once people start saying, oh, but this student was more senior, or oh, this student had a better lineage, usually you can pick those things apart pretty damn quickly.
Yeah.
They don't stand up to scrutiny.
Right.
This is about people sharing ideas and information, the way you and I share ideas and information, the way you chat to all sorts of different martial artists on your channel. Whether that be our mutual friend Les, whether that be Ian, who admittedly I don't talk to Ian as much as I used to. We just don't have the time anymore.
Yeah, busy guys.
He's a very, very busy man doing a lot of seminars. It's the way that you talk to Baz Rutten, and Dana, and get all those fantastic ideas from different people. It's not about one person being superior to another person. It's about what can you teach each other? What can you share with each other?
Yeah. And also, from a tactical and functional point of view, you cross ideas sometimes strategically because you want to surgically improve one particular aspect of your game.
Oh, yes.
Right. I talked to Ian about, the education analogy, and it's kind of like we're generalists. Martial artists are generalists, but or GPs, general practitioners, but we want to be the best possible GP that we can by talking to surgeons and dentists and orthopedic surgeons.
I don't know if it's the same where you are, but my local GP surgery, you go to their website and they list all the different GPs, but with each GP it will say this GP has a particular interest in asthma.
Yes.
This GP has a particular interest in diabetes. And, within the surgery, they're all very, very good generalists. And it's what an incredibly, diagnosing medicine when you don't know what on earth is coming through the door. That's actually a really, really difficult job. It's very underappreciated.
Right.
The sheer scope that a GP has to deal with. But within a surgery, you will often get people who have their own specialized interests to give more focused care in those different areas.
So we've got about 10 minutes left, and I'd like to maybe lighten things up a bit and talk about your favorite fighter.
Well, I've got a confession to make here.
Yeah.
And that is that I do not really follow boxing or MMA or UFC at all. It holds pretty much no interest for me whatsoever. For me,
okay, we're done. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm just kidding.
For me, it's a tool. It's a tool.
Yeah.
I will watch clips. If people direct me to clips, I watch clips. I pick up things from that and I go, right, yeah, I recognize that. Oh, it's good to see that being used under pressure, and so forth. It's a confirmation of something I thought about. Oh, I'm seeing somebody else use it under pressure in this same sort of or a similar sort of context. Now, if I had to pick a boxer, when I think back, there are very, very few boxers whose fights I've watched in terms of whole fights. And, generally speaking, there were people who I watched as I was growing up rather than people who I would watch now. So, or people who I've gone back to watch. So, I'd definitely say, and this is a bit of a cliche, I'd definitely say Ali. For his movement, for his power, for his determination, for his wit on talk shows. What a character. He's not always people's most popular choice. And obviously, Tyson, tremendous fighter.
Yep.
but for me, that's always been a tool. I don't tend to watch UFC or boxing per se. My blood gets up a bit too much. So if people direct me to stuff, I will watch it to learn from it. But it's not how I personally entertain myself.
Yeah. No, that's fine. If you were to ask an Okinawan founder, okay, a question, what would it be?
Honestly,
Yeah.
would you like a beer?
Really?
Because here's the thing, I think I'd have given a different answer to that at different stages in my training.
Yeah.
But there's not much that I'd ask an Okinawan founder that I wouldn't ask one of my peers
right
now. I've sat at a table with the great Aikidoka Pierre Chassin when he was in his 80s, and done my best to engage in him in rudimentary French. And I've trained with and worked with some fabulous martial artists, and I think we can get too hung up. We get too hung up on these people that have laid foundations for us, and forget that they've made a world possible where we're surrounded by giants. And I think these individuals themselves, they'd be quite upset to find that we were still hero worshipping them,
right
above and beyond people who should have gone beyond them. We've had the opportunity to read their works, not just the work of one person, but the work of multiple Okinawan masters. We've had the opportunity to read stuff from all different areas. We've had the opportunity to watch and train in so many more arts, to gain so much more information about violence, about physical fitness, about health, mental health. We live in an information it's an information age, and it's also an age where things can be just tested.
Yeah.
Things really can be tested in all sorts of different ways. And as a result, everybody that has put in about 15, 20 years of training should have the potential, at least, to be far superior to any of these old Okinawan masters. Now, the fact that they're not, maybe because they don't have the time to do the reading, to do the training, to do the testing, but the information's out there. And these Okinawan masters themselves, had they had the opportunity to have the backgrounds and information that we have, compared to what they have, they would be so much better now than they were then. We're here because of them. Make no bones about it. It's their drive and their vision that have taken karate to where it is and given us all these different opportunities. You and me here, we've both trained in each other's dojos on either side of the Atlantic, and here we are talking via the Wi-Fi across the Atlantic.
Beautiful thing.
And it is a beautiful thing.
Yep.
But they are the past. And I'd be very interested to chat to one of them if I could. And just, chat to them the way I chat to you. Across the beer at a table, discuss ideas, maybe cross hands if we're both at a stage where we're fitting well enough to do it. And, just explore things and just play. But I wouldn't approach them in the manner of someone seeking enlightenment.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because I appreciate that response. And I have to admit my underlying there was an underlying bias behind that question, because I said, if you were to ask an Okinawan founder a question, what would it be? I'm automatically biased in assuming that, this person is, he's the founder, right? But I mean, I agree with you. I mean, these guys definitely, they're innovators, right? And they've given us these tools. It's like treasure, right? That's passed down, and now we've got it, right? Here's the kion, here's the kata, right? Now go play, right? And so we've got it, and we've taken it to new boundaries now, because of all the things you mentioned: technology, travel, access to all kinds of stuff, and the ability to criticize and constructively and destructively, and make amazing things, for ourselves and for our students' work, right?
I mean, here's a little thing for you. I mean, you've seen, it's a poster I made many, many years ago, and I share it every so often, a picture of Kenwa Mabuni sitting in padding. And then there's a picture of some of my students standing in padding. And then there's a little quotation from Funakoshi about experimenting with padding,
right,
and more pressurized training and competition.
Right.
And I do wonder, if you were to magically put them in either Doctor Who's TARDIS or Bill and Ted's phone booth, okay, and transport them in time from when they said those things in the 1930s to now, and you showed them what a lot of their students were doing, and then you showed them all the equipment that is available, all the different types of, whether it's the Spartan training gear, whether it's the Blair tactical stuff, whether it's the bullet head stuff, all the different types of body armor and padding and different things and different ways you can train, and MMA, and all the different competition rules and things like this. You showed them all that, and then you showed them what perhaps the majority of people in their systems or descendant styles are doing. I think they'd be quite upset that people have not, like they did in the 30s, experimented with this new kit.
Right.
I think they would be disappointed. There's these guys were not about preserving a fixed entity. They were about exploring and improving and transmitting things, and often knowingly changing things.
Oh, yeah.
For different aims. But what they weren't about, I don't think, they were not about standing still. They were not about making a preservative.
Yeah, a preservative jar.
That perhaps is more of a marketing exercise.
Yeah.
That is something that has grown out of, maybe, without that, for all we criticize it, without that, maybe karate would not have spread so far. The thing is, if you make something too open to change, it's difficult to know what it is. For example, what is Jeet Kune Do? Because the whole thing about Jeet Kune Do is about changing and absorbing and taking what's useful for you.
Yep.
Which means that as an entity, of course, it continuously changes. Of course, it doesn't help that Bruce died in his mid-30s.
Right.
The Jeet Kune Do that Bruce was teaching in his mid-30s to his small groups of students would be very, very different, I'm sure, to the Jeet Kune Do that Bruce might have taught had he lived to be the same age that Dan Inosanto is now. And similarly, we look at how much these guys changed things, and then there have been continuous changes. I wouldn't say things are petrified, but a large part of selling a product is keeping a product distinct and marketable. And on the one hand, that has been karate's great success. On the other hand, perhaps it's been karate's great curse.
I think the practical karate world, if you want to call it that, the groups of people like you and I would like to say that I'm in that kind of umbrella in terms of, we're reaching out, we're trying to bring people together and say, hey, we got 2 arms, 2 legs. we're bound by biomechanical principles. Your part of the world does it this way, we do it this way, but we're kind of going to the same place, right? And so let's just learn from each other, right? I think what I was going to say, the Jeet Kune Do and where karate was before, I think is the same, because we've got tons of evidence, right? And like, I don't want to sound like a rehash on this podcast, because this podcast, I always talk about the same things, but and it gets kind of repetitive, but there is truth to all this. Like, when you dig deep enough, and when you speak to the right people, and you read the right things, read the information about where these guys were taking, these guys meaning the masters, where they were taking their training, they were always mixing things up, man. And like I said in my earlier podcast, like it was really cool, because I ignored it in my book. I looked at Nagamini's book, and in there it specifically said he said turn to cross training, look at judo, kendo, boxing, wrestling, look at those things, because they're dynamic, and you need to keep it dynamic, because self-defense is chaotic and dynamic, as you mentioned earlier. Self-defense is a whole different beast, man, and violence is nasty.
Violence is alive. It's dynamic. It's alive. It's organic. Not static.
No. And so, and that's what these guys were doing. I mean, they were looking around. They were looking everywhere, right? They just, how they were getting the information, the speed at which they were getting it was very slow, though, because of geographical constraints and technological constraints. But no, man, this has been a fantastic conversation, where I am elated. I mean, I wish we can speak longer, but this is one of many talks, John, and
it's been a real pleasure. It's definitely been a pleasure.
We're going to continue this on at some other point. I'd love to bring you on again. Maybe we'll chat about some other things, but thank you so much. Where can we find you once again? John Titchen, Practical Karate.
So John Titchen on Facebook.
Yep.
And Titchen.com on the general website. But of course, that has links to all my different media platforms.
All right. And just some closing thoughts. What's up next for John Titchen Practical Karate? What are some of your projects?
Well, the 2020 project, other than the Karate Beyond Kata book, was to make a complete downloadable video instruction series for the Penang Flow System. That is still on the cards. I've got a number of different people who are really interested in taking part in that. We'd like to film it here in this dojo.
Yeah.
And I hope that 2021 will bring that project to fruition.
Yep.
Coming up as well will be Volume 2 of Karate and Self-Defense Selected Articles.
All right.
So the original one, I think, had about 13 different articles written between 2005 and 2012. This one's going to sort of like pick up from there and, again, take about 8 years worth of just picking select articles that I think have got important points to make and taking them out to a wider audience. And I will continue to work on the same project that I've been working on for the last 20 years, which is my self-protection book. Yeah. And that one, the structure's there. I'm always looking at it. I'm always working on it. And it may be 2021. It may be 2022. It's unlikely that I'd put out 2 books in 1 year. So we'll see what happens with that. And of course, once we are in a position where we're able to train and travel freely again, then expect me to be hopping onto plane. Expect to see me up and down and around and about in the UK a bit more, out in Europe, and possibly across in Canada and the US as well.
Oh, we'll set something up for sure, man. We'll talk once things open up. We'll love to have you here. Get you a seminar here. That'll be great.
It will be a pleasure.
And I want to come and see you too. So
of course.
Well, listen, so thank you so much. Chris Hansen signing out. If you guys like this content, please like, subscribe, follow, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of this. Karate Unity has podcasts such as this, where we interview martial artists and just great people, all over the world. And we're just trying to find ways to bridge the gaps, bring people together, and trying to learn and share our common love for training and for life. Chris Hansen signing out. All the best. and remember to treat each other with kindness and respect.